family and friends and fellow YouTubers, it's Kim here from Kim's Country Corner, and today my corner of the world is in my brother's kitchen because I am getting ready to fix one of my favorite meals, and I think he likes it an awful lot too, as does my whole family. And I know you guys have seen it before, but you're going to get to see it again, and that is my scalloped potatoes and ham dinner. And so I want to show you how to make these scalloped potatoes. I'm going to do a step-by-step so that if my daughters ever want to know, they can follow along with this video. Now, as you can tell, I have no recipe book. That's because I've made it so many times I know it by heart. But it's a really easy recipe because all you have to do is remember the 3-3-3 quotient, okay? So, for every 2.5 pounds of potatoes, if you round that off to 3, you can even remember that part as a 3. So let's say for every 3 pounds of potatoes, these are the ingredients that you're going to want. The first thing you're going to want to make sure you have on hand is 3 cups of whole milk, okay? And since we don't drink a lot of whole milk, I usually get by with just buying the small container. You're going to want 3 tablespoons of flour. You're going to want 3 tablespoons of butter. And yes, I do suggest you using real butter. It does make a difference. And the butter sticks are divided out into tablespoons. So you just have to measure on the stick and cut it off at that length. Then you're going to want 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, okay? And then we usually buy the 5-pound bags of red potatoes, and you do want them red because if you buy white, they will cook down to be too soft. Russet are okay, but I would prefer, if you can, to use the red. All right. Now, the recipe that I just told you was based on 2.5 pounds of potatoes, okay? So you can even round that to a 3. For every 3 pounds of potatoes, you're going to need 3 cups of milk, 3 tablespoons of flour, 3 tablespoons of butter, and then 1, okay? Now, since I'm using the whole 5 pounds, I will be doubling this recipe, okay? So there again, since I know I'm going to double, that means that for this recipe, I will need 6, and I still usually only go with a tablespoon of salt. Kind of varies by taste, but potatoes will retain salt, and you don't want to get them too salty. So this part I usually leave alone because they can add salt to their taste afterwards. And then the 1/4 teaspoon of pepper I usually leave alone because there again, if they want them more salty, they want them more peppery, they can add to taste, okay? I just don't want to overdo this part. All right, so now I'm going to zoom you in for the cooking part. Let's put these back there out of the way. All right, here we go. So the first thing that you do is you do your butter first. You get it melted down. So I'm going to take off these last 2 tablespoons. And what I normally do is I will put a dab on the top of the potatoes, and then I will also put the rest of it onto the table for them to use for rolls. But 6 tablespoons goes into the pan. I usually will start this out at a medium until my butter has melted. Okay, and yes, you can speed up this process by microwaving it. Okay? I usually just do it as is, but anyway. There really is no difference between putting this in the microwave for a few minutes and doing it this way, but I just never have thought to microwave. I always just add it right to the pan. All right. Okay, so to the melted butter, the next thing I'm going to be adding are my dry ingredients, which would be the 6 tablespoons of flour. Now I'm sure some of you might be saying, wait, 6? I thought she said this was based on 3s. Well, it is, except I'm doubling, so now we do 6. If we were just doing a single batch, yes, it would be 3. All right, so there are those 6 tablespoons of flour. Here, whoops, here's my 1 teaspoon of salt. It looks like it has a little leak on it. Oh, I see the way the tab is made. Alright, now what I'm going to do, so if you can see that, I'm going to mix this up with the butter until I have a paste. Okay? If you're as old as me, you probably remember the days when you used to have to make your own paste to take to school, where you used the flour and the water and the salt. Which this is not that kind of paste, but it's going to have the consistency of that kind of paste. All right, you see that paste right there? That's your what I call your basis. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that to a little bit of a higher temperature because I want it to get it to a bubbly stage before I add the milk. Can you all see how it's starting to bubble in there? Okay, and then to this paste I will be adding 6 cups of milk because once again I'm doing a double recipe. I tell you, Steve, I think that's the most sirens I've heard since I've been here. That's funny. Oh, there's something happening a block away. Okay. I was going to say, it's not usually that loud in my corner of the world down here, guys. Okay. Now what I want to do is I'm going to stir this paste and this milk until my paste has dissolved into the milk. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil. So I will need to bump up my stove to a high, and I will want to do a constant stirring because you do not want this to burn or scorch. Okay, so then once it comes to a rapid boil, you'll want to set your timer for 1 minute and let it continue to boil for 1 minute while you're stirring. Okay? If it looks like it's going to boil over, be sure and lower your temperature. Alright, so I have turned the temperature all the way off now. I will continue to stir occasionally, but at this point I want to go ahead and start on my serving containers. These are crocks here. And you guys have seen me do this before. I like to spray my crocks. Make sure your heaters are not on when you do this. You do not want to be spraying this into a flame, okay, or a heat source. I usually have it on my table, but these burners are not on, so I'm okay. Alright, so I have my containers ready to go. The next job is just to put the potatoes in. You'll want to put the potatoes in about 3/4 of the way. You want to leave a little bit of room at the top so that it does not boil over into your oven, and plus you're going to be adding cheese later. Okay, I'm going to take some out of this one, add it over to that one. Okay, so then once you have your potatoes laid in there the way you want them, then you're just going to simply pour the white sauce over the top. So if you get all the way finished and you realize that you don't have quite enough white sauce, you can go ahead and just add the whole milk to the top. They do not have to be completely covered, but you do want them 3/4 of the way up. Okay? All right. And then what the recipe calls for is for you to take and dab some butter up on the top of them. All right, there we go. Now I will be sticking these into a 350-degree oven for 1.5 hours to 2 hours, depending on how long it takes. You just have to kind of take them out after 1.5 hours and test them to make sure your potatoes are cooked all the way through. Most of the time they are. Sometimes you have to leave them in there just a little bit longer. All right, so then after I let these cook for 1.5 hours to 2 hours, I'll be back to show you the cheese procedure. Okay friends, so there's the 2 crocks of scalloped potatoes and the ham. Let me see if I can pull these out, get a closer look. And I always put a cookie sheet or something underneath the scalloped potatoes because they do have a tendency to want to boil over. And then you don't have all that in the bottom of your stove. And then we like our potatoes to be cheesy, so I've sliced some chunks of Velveeta cheese off here. And about 10 to 15 minutes before it's time for them to come out of the oven, I will layer the cheese on top and then leave them in the oven for that remaining 10 to 15 minutes for the cheese to melt. Another variety you might want to think about is sometimes people will add onions to the potatoes while they're fixing them. We prefer with no onions, but you can add an onion to the dish also. Alright, so now it's just a matter of time of waiting, and we have, about another hour to go. So, talk to you guys later. Bye for now. We'll also be serving some corn, some rolls in this pretty container, and then we have some brownies over here that we'll slice up to go with the ice cream. We have Steve's table is in here nicely set. Get a full shot here. Your table looks really nice, Steve.
Went simple.
You did. It went simple, but simple's sometimes always the best way to go. Very pretty. We got some cheese and crackers going on. I told him about Grandma's hutch, about how dark it was when you first got it.
Yep.
It was the darkest stain I think I'd ever seen. And that you took it all off and did the lighter color, and it looks a whole lot better. All right, one last shot here. See, now they can see the mirror. The other day when I was taping, I covered the mirror up because I kept getting a glare. See guys, you can see the mirror in it now. Okay friends, so we're down to the last probably 10-15 minutes. So as you can see, the ham is finished up. We sliced it and now we're just letting it stay warm. And the scalloped potatoes, I put the cheese on, and it will melt together and make a nice layer of cheese.